Hello, my beautiful souls of love and light, my dearest friends. This is Nenari, Princess of the Sea, coming to you with a new video. Wow, it's been a couple weeks now since I've done a more recent personal video. I have a couple of meditational satsangs sitting on my YouTube. It's just so much has happened in the last couple of weeks. I have been so busy helping so many and going through my own journey that I have yet to record this. So I'm finally getting the opportunity to do so. So now I will. On October 29th of this year, so a couple of weeks ago, actually pretty much 2 weeks ago now, I had the opportunity to go see the movie Cloud Atlas. I chose the day of the 29th because it's a very special day. It is and was the 25th anniversary of my beloved Steve's death. If you recall from my previous videos here on YouTube, I spoke about Steve. He was the original Twin Soul Essence before Chris and him made the soul agreement to inactivate that soul agreement 14 years ago for Chris to take on the soul essence. And so Steve's death 25 years ago, was a very profound experience and a turning point in my life in so many ways. And I've shared, that experience, on my previous YouTube videos, so I'll be free from getting into that here. However, I did choose that day as the day to go see Cloud Atlas because, Chris and Steve have a very strong bond, and Steve is always with me in spirit, is always with Chris in spirit. And, we have this bond here. And so the movie Cloud Atlas was very interesting because from the moment that I saw the trailer many months ago when it first came out, I think it was in, I don't know, June or July or something like that. Now, maybe before that, when the original trailer came out, and I've left the link for the extended trailer down in the video description here for you. From the moments that I first saw the trailer, it was calling to my heart. I very much knew it was a Twin Soul movie. Now, they do explain aspects of many things in the movie about life, about multidimensionality, about time travel, about twin souls, about soulmates, karma, and, so many things. And so it's very much a movie that I recommend you watching. I have a bit of a background with this movie indirectly, in a sense. This adaptation of the book, although I never read the book, I suppose now I should go read the book. This adaptation of it is, from the Wachowskis. And the Wachowskis, if you know, have done the Matrix trilogy. Now, the Matrix trilogy itself was born in something called the Self-Expression and Leadership Program, or the SELP, within the Landmark Forum. And I had the opportunity to be indirectly involved in that, so to speak, because the SELP course is something I also took. I took the Landmark Forum, I took the advanced course, and I also took the SELP, and at one point was also going to be a Landmark Forum leader. At the time, my children were very young, and so I did not want to go back out on the international speaking circuit again in that sense, being away from my children and whatnot, so I chose not to go that route. But I did go through their application process and was accepted as a Landmark Forum leader. And the Landmark Forum, my Landmark Forum leader was actually the Wachowskis' SELP leader, which is where the Matrix trilogy, the screenplay for it, was birthed. So I have a little bit of an indirect connection because the Matrix trilogy itself, and also aspects of Cloud Atlas, I could see very much has the teachings and the wisdom, the spiritualness of the Landmark Forum and what they bring forth, in spiritual wisdom. And so I was very interested to see what the take would be from the Wachowskis on this book and how they expanded it. And so immediately when I saw the trailer, I twigged on it for that reason, but also for the reason being that of what it meant to me personally, with Chris's and my journey as twin souls and the aspect of twin souls that I could see in it. And also when you watch the trailer and or the movie, there is references to a troubadour being on a ship, even though they don't say, that it's the troubadour, so to speak, there is a sailor on a ship. And to me, it was very reminiscent of, the troubadour energy, which, Chris imbibes, and, him drinking in that essence of who he is and it being on the screen. And there were many other things that, in watching the movie, that I could see reflections of in twin soul relationships. At the end of the movie, there is a scene with the two sons, and many other aspects that reflects the twin soul connection. Also about soulmates as well. So what I wanted to talk about, because people have asked me, I don't really get the movie, can you expand upon it? So that's why I'm doing this video about it. And hopefully I'm not giving away any what they call movie spoilers and what I explain, but if I do, forgive me ahead of time. I would like to start out by, there's a quote, and if I remember correctly, it's also in the trailer. Um, Tom Hanks, who plays Isaac Sachs in the movie, in the one timeline that they're talking about, is sitting on a plane getting ready to take off, and he says, yesterday, I believe I would have done what I did today. I feel like something important has happened to me. Is it possible? I just met her, and yet I have fallen in love with Louisa Ray. And that was very profound for me because, and I'm sure it's very profound for those of you who have seen the movie or who will see this movie, because it's very indicative of twin soul relationship. It's also indicative of deep soulmate and near twin soul connections that we have on a romantic level. And it very much brought me back to the moments in which, Chris and I first fell in love with one another. And, from the beginning of our intuition, and I have shared that, in my videos here on YouTube. So I will not go into depth on that. You can watch that video on soul recognition. But what I will say here is that very indicative of the twin soul connection and deep soulmate and near twin soul connections that we have is that sense of, is it possible that you've just met someone and yet you've fallen in love with them? And it's very much so because there's a deep soul recognition that comes in the twin soul journey, as well as other, deeper connections that we have. And the movie very much shows that within the different timelines of multidimensionality. One of the things that I've had a few people who've come to me and asked me about is the confusion having to do with timelines that is brought forth in the movie. And in expanding upon that, I will say, when you're able to step into the space of multidimensionality beyond our 3D consciousness here, you can understand that all our lives are occurring here at once. And so they're happening in multi-dimensions. And so the confusion with the timelines that people have asked me about, because the movie seems to kind of go back and forth and intermix different timelines of the many lives that, Louisa and Isaac basically share together and how they're interconnected. The life of them, him being the troubadour, basically sailing on the ship. There's a life in the future as well of them that they bridge upon, and there's many different aspects that interlink. And when you step into this multidimensionality, you can actually see, and I saw very clearly, how it all was interwoven and how it all made sense. And so when you open yourself up to understanding multiple timelines happening in succession all at once, rather than the earthly linearity of 3D that we, know ourselves to be in 3D, where things happen, from one year to the next and a day on a calendar and whatnot, that's not really who we are. Who we are is very multidimensional, and so things are always happening and interwoven in different timelines at the same moment. And a lot of times we'll have a convergence of timelines, which is also what is being occurring in the shifts that we're going through. So it's very indicative of, the twin soul journey. Now, there is something that I would like to stress here about the twin soul journey that I feel the movie Cloud Atlas was speaking in terms of more of soulmates within those timelines. There was a lot that was brought up in the movie in various forms having to do with karma. Now, karma, from an earthly standpoint, does occur with soulmates. Now, we are all soulmates of each other, and we will have relationships having to do with karma or balance of those relationships. For instance, in the movie, there is a deep pain and hurt that occurs that they show within, and this is also indicative with twin souls as well, although twin souls do not have karma, and I'll explain why in a moment. But there's deep pain involved in what they show in the movie Cloud Atlas, of where in one life, Isaac leaves, Louisa, and then vice versa. One, dies and the other one doesn't. One leaves the situation and is no longer with, the other. Those kind of things. Those kind of things will happen in soulmate relationships, both from a romantic standpoint and soulmate relationships in general, whether it's mother-daughter or, sister-brother or friends or, that kind of nature. And that is where we have what we call karma, what's really known as soul rememberings or life lessons that we are to learn through or remember through different things having to do with compassion or unconditional love or forgiveness or other aspects that we are to come into learning or soulfully remembering. Because as I said in my other previous videos, we are free from really learning anything. This is free from being a school here on this earth. It's just simply that we have everything already within us and we're just but to remember. And remember the aspects of who we really are as a spiritual being through the human experience. And then as through the human experience, we remember the spiritual being we are. It's an infinite circle. So there's karma in that sense with soulmate relationships and occasionally with near twin soul relationships, although very rare, because near twin soul relationships, as I've explained in my previous video before, are simply just a mirror of what can be with your twin soul once you have melded the emotional bodies and the mental body and the spiritual body and physical body. Which brings us to the twin soul relationship. As I have said before in my previous videos, and was just reminded by another friend who also just did a video on this recently. Hello, Mel, if you're listening to this video, thank you for your video. He explained in his video, as I'm going to explain here in this video once more, that I've explained many times in my other videos here on YouTube. With twin soul relationships, you are free from having what we call earthly karma. What you do have, however, is the balancing of the emotional body and the mental body and the physical and the spiritual body. And I've gone into quite depth on that in my previous videos, so I will be free from doing so here. What I will say is, in the movie Cloud Atlas, they do speak of, in various ways and various forms, having to do with karmic relationships on a soulmate level, as well as the twin soul level of a deep inner knowing that it's just balance that we are to come into, and how they show that within the various timelines is quite beautiful. And I quite love the movie for that reason. Now, within that ability of the twin soul relationship, of going beyond that 3D of karma in knowing that twin souls do not have karma, in the movie, there is an aspect that is shown very deeply of this. There is one life, it's a future life that is being shown, in which the gentleman who plays in The Matrix very well as Mr. Smith, who is also in this movie, Cloud Atlas, he plays the role of what we would call a demon. Is all I will say. Now, it's not demon as in evil. When you watch the movie, you will understand better. So I will not give that away. But what occurs in the movie is this demon, if you will, who is played by this gentleman, Hugo Weaving, I believe is his earthly name. He plays this role of trying to be like the opposite, and explaining to Tom Hanks, as he is in that timeline, that the woman who is his twin soul is somehow evil. And he puts these little bugs in his ear, kind of whispering to him, like, she's evil. And there's one scene in which they are climbing up a mountain, and he is holding her with the rope, basically being her support as she climbs up this mountain. And the demon, if you will, or this shadow aspect, the ego aspect of him, through representing as this gentleman, Hugo Weaving, the character that he plays, proceeds to tell him to let go of the rope and basically kill her. Now, if this were a karmic soulmate relationship, he could have very easily done so and created that karma, if you will, from an earthly standpoint. However, he reaches very deep within himself and comes to understand and transcend that shadow side. And in transcending that shadow side, he basically, in essence, says no. And he does not let her go. And in fact, he helps her up the rest of the mountain and basically saving her life, because at one point the anchor starts to come out, of the wool, and she starts to fall, and he catches her basically with the rope and saves her, and makes his own hands bleed basically to save her. So that's very much indicative of the twin soul journey, in which we transcend that shadow side, or that what we would call evil side, or that egoic side, and we transcend it into unconditional love. And we understand that that soul is our soul. We share the same soul. And so we would never harm another, no more than we would harm our own soul. And so it was quite beautiful how it was shown, and how he transcends that, and how we are to be that example as well. Now, there's also another aspect, that in that future life timeline, that the woman who, is played by, who is Louisa, basically, Louisa Ray, she is played by Halle Berry. And she has something that she says, which is very indicative, and I'm going to paraphrase it. But she says that throughout all our lives, we are bound to the one who calls to our heart. And that no matter whether we show kindness or hurt, we are bound and we are bonded. That is indicative of the soulmate and twin soul relationships, but particularly the twin soul relationships, that when we go beyond the earthly karma, that we transcend that, and we understand that twin souls are free from having karma. She also speaks in that life before she is killed, about something that is very keen for my journey personally, mine and Chris's, and also for all of us. And that is the words of wisdom that she says in that life. She is being questioned. Basically, she had been arrested, and that's all I'm going to say, so I don't give anything away. But during her arresting, she was asked a question, And her response was, how is she to tell the truth, which is the truth of love, if she were to be kept hidden, where no one would ever know the truth? And how she loves him no matter what, because she was asked, does she still love him? And she says, yes. I mean, unequivocally, yes. There was no doubt in her mind. And that she always, loves him. And she said it in the present tense, which again is very indicative of understanding that all is now in the present moment and that all our lives are being lived right now at once. And the saying of the truth, that was very profound for me, because in my journey I felt very hidden. And at one point I had blamed Chris in my ego for such, when really it wasn't. It was just myself, hiding myself away and being free from coming out and saying the truth about us, about who we are as twin souls together, my beloved sweet troubadour Chris and I. And so when I transcended that shadow side of me, I was able to come out and start doing these videos. And he represented, Chris did, the shadow aspect of me. And, since I've come out with the truth, that truth of love, just as she does in the movie, you stand in that place, come what may, and people come and see you. They really see who you really are. Since I've been doing these videos now, in particular, I've been receiving letters. In fact, I just received a letter just yesterday evening of how people are truly seeing me, seeing who I am, and knowing I am coming straight from the heart in speaking the truth of love, about Chris and I and our journey, about everything that I share. And that, again, is the essence of the Twin Soul Union, is we are to come out and speak the truth in love and share in how may I serve, for the benefit of all of humanity, including ourselves as twin souls. That's the essence of the twin soul relationship, is to be that unconditional love and share it with the world. And Chris and I do that, all the time. It was also indicative of her saying, I love you, or I love him, to know that our lives are in the present, and that love always is. As my beloved sweet troubadour sings in his song, it's forever and a day. And it is that context in which it matters not, what timeline we are in. And it's very indicative of where they show how they come together. There are several timelines that we go through in multidimensionality, in which we are either not with our twin souls, we pass each other, so to speak, or we are together and yet free from being together, in the sense that, one may cross over first before the other and whatnot, yet the love is always there and is always ever present, and that is free from ever changing. It's like the love from Source, the love from God. The master artist in love is always there, it's ever present, and all our lives are interconnected, and so we can tune into that energy at any moment. And the connection is so very deep in that love that it never leaves. It's a place beyond our sights. Now, there were some other things that came through within that, and one of the things that came through is in the one timeline where Louisa and Isaac were lovers. They were gay, and in that life, and there is a saying, and it's also in the movie trailer, in which it comes from the book as well, I believe, and it says, I believe that there is another world waiting for us, Sixsmith, a better world, and I will meet you there. And what that really references to is, yes, coming together, possibly in another life, in another timeline, in multidimensionality. But it also refers to that essence, yet again, of, our lives are being lived all as one, at once, as one. And within that, that world is what is waiting for you, and you can meet in that love and in that oneness at any moment. Now, there was also a few aspects that were personal for me. Cloud Atlas, the name of it is also in the movie that you will see, and also is also in the trailer, is actually a composition. It's a compositional piece, a classical music piece that comes from the timeline that they share together as well. There was a quote in there that she says that, or he says, I believe it is, that's the music from my dream. She and he, I will say, because you intermix genders in various life. What was being said is that, there was this music. And it explained so much and so many resonances, because when I first heard Chris's music here in this life, I knew that it was from beyond this life, that it was music that we created together once before. And, once before in the sense of another timeline, in another life. And it was also and is also the music of the spheres, the music of the universe, the music of Source itself being expressed through him. And so I had a very deep soul recognition immediately upon first hearing the first notes of his compositions, and know in that inner knowing, and he did as well know that I knew. And so the music aspect of it tied in, for me personally, and for Chris and I in our journey together, was a very deep resonance in watching that movie as well. There's also a scene that is at the end of the movie, which was very indicative of how I feel in my own life personally, yet also having to do with life in general for many here on this earth, especially those of us, as light workers. And there's this scene in which they do come together. There's two different timelines, at least, that are shown in which the twin souls come together, Louisa and Isaac. And basically, in this timeline, again, the gentleman, Hugo Weaving, he plays the role of the quote-unquote villain, or the shadow aspect, so very well, both in the Matrix trilogy and in Cloud Atlas. It's tailor-made for him. And he makes a point of trying to stop the two of them from living and being who they really are. Again, the shadow aspect, the egoic aspect of things. And basically, he says there is a natural order to this world, and those who try to upend it do not fare very well. In other words, to mean, if you go against, what society deems as, what is supposed to be, then you're not going to fare very well in life. And, he says, only as you gasp your dying breath shall you understand your life amounted to no more than one drop in a limitless ocean. So, in other words, it was the shadow aspect attempting to come through and stop them from being who they really are. And the response by Tom Hanks, I thought, was absolutely beautiful, in which he turns around and he says, yet what is any ocean but a multitude of drops? And so when you come to understand that, you are to really be who you really are. And for me, that was very profound on a personal level, because of the growth that I've gone through in this last almost 5 years now since Chris and I came together, of really stepping into being who I really am as Nenari, which began, 14 years ago, and then again in another level 12 years ago. in really coming to understand that I am the princess, which I've always been. And I've explained that, in my other videos. But really coming into being that regardless of what society says, regardless of what Chris has even said. He has played the shadow aspect very well, as I have said before. And we are to transcend that. And when we step into the twin soul journey, and also for us as light workers, that is our task, is to transcend the duality in that shadow aspect within us until we come into that split space of oneness and love. And so I've given various videos about this on how to be this. So I will not go into that, but I thought it was very profound. There's also another aspect that came through in the future life that is in Cloud Atlas that I'd like to explore, which also goes to this aspect of life and duality and what we perceive to be. Without giving too much away, in this future life, basically, they are, or we are, robots, so to speak, kind of like society is now in a reflection. But in the future, it is more intense, and you'll see when you watch the movie what I'm referring to. And there's this aspect of basically you are to do what you're told and run the program, as it were. And again, in transcending that with twin souls to where twin souls have no karma, basically it's all it is the balancing of the emotional body and the mental body and the physical body and the spiritual body. And in balancing especially the emotional body and the mental body, it really is about shifting and transcending into that space of understanding that really what it's about, rather than being about karma, is it's about the deep essence of the automatic programming that we have embedded within us in this life and in many other timelines and many other lives that we've carried with us that we're to shed. And so Chris and I have gone through this process to where now we've reached a peaceful resonance to where none of that's coming up anymore. And when it does, we'll often joke around about it. And, just recently he had text messaged me and asked me, do I give you a hard time? Meaning, does he give me a hard time? And my response back was, no, baby, not at all. I know he's just mumbling, which is a private joke between he and I, and that I love him more than he'll ever know. And he had texted back saying he knows. And so, we've been in that place now for a long time now where we've transcended that in healing our hearts of all that automatic programming of the melding of the emotional body and mental body in particular. And that's what it is for twin souls. And so in this future life, you basically are, this kind of robot is what they're portraying in Cloud Atlas, and Somine, I forget how he says it, 451, I think is Somi, I think it is Somi or Sonmi, I think it is 451 is her name in this future life. And so basically you have, they show that, they're working basically at this restaurant, being these robots and serving food, and how may I serve in a robotic sense of an indoctrinational programming. And basically what they show is one of two things. Either if you don't abide by society's rules of that future life, they do show a scene in which someone tries to buck the system, so to speak, and she is killed. And the horror that Somni 451 that is in her face when she watches this friend who she had become close with being killed. Now, the other aspect they show is this sense of quote unquote enlightenment that occurs, where these beings supposedly graduate, if you will, to going on to being with the masters, supposedly, in this enlightenment. And without giving too much away, without it being a spoiler, hopefully, I will say that Somni 451, in being requested to be the spiritual leader that she is, ends up finding out and seeing that what really happens when these masters supposedly take people who have reached enlightenment through this portal or this gate is they actually end up being slaughtered and being used for their energy. And that is very much Atlantean energy, of what we did in Atlantis when we, came down in devolving, as it were, to egoic energy. And that's the egoic Atlantean energy that's been here on this planet for, thousands and thousands of years now as a result. And so I found that to be very profound because we go through an illusionment, a delusion, if you will, that when we reach enlightenment, that supposedly that we've arrived, and in that we are free, yet we're still bound by the matrix. We're still bound by the societal rules. And so it's kind of like a fake enlightenment. And true enlightenment comes in when you're able to transcend that balance of karma. And so when you watch Cloud Atlas, you will see that essence of how she stands up and transcends into being the spiritual leader that she is. And we are all leaders. And that is where the movie Cloud Atlas really shows how we are all leaders and stepping into being the truth within, that we are our own guru, we are our own leader, and how we transcend that. And I thought it was quite beautiful how Cloud Atlas shows that. So without giving too much away, I will share that with you. There was also another quote in which Timothy, who is played by Tom Hanks in Another Timeline, says, "We cross and recross our old paths like figure skaters." And there's also a scene, which I believe is also in the trailer, in which Halle Berry is reading some old love letters, which again are the love letters I see as being the troubadour's letters from that life. It's a reflection of Song of the Troubadour and Song of the Princess in that sense. And that again goes through a soulmate relationship and how we cross our paths, but it's also indicative of the twin soul journey, because the twin soul journey, we do cross paths, although not as many lives that we share relative to the soulmate journey, but we do crisscross our paths. We cross and recross our paths like the figure skaters do in that eight or infinity, right? Of the loop in which, with soulmates, again, it's a karmic balance of soul rememberings. And with the twin soul union, we transcend the karma. And so the Cloud Atlas movie, in so many ways, I know there's much more that I could say about this movie. But Louisa Ray, also says, as she's reading those letters, her son in that life asks her, why do you keep reading the old letters? And she says, I don't know why. Just trying to understand why we keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And again, that goes to the balance of karma from a soulmate perspective. And then they also show how you transcend that. So there's many infinite layers within this movie, Cloud Atlas, and I'm sure I'm just touching the surface here. And perhaps upon deeper reflection, I may do a second video about this. However, I would like to say that both from a personal level, as well as the twin soul journey with my beloved sweet troubadour Chris, as well as taking it out from a broader perspective of the interweavings of life, and the many multi-dimensions that we are in and live and be in each moment. This movie is very, very profound, and it's a movie I highly recommend. And myself, I hardly ever go to the movies anymore, and hardly ever buy movies either. But when this comes out to buy, it will be a movie that I will buy and I will have in my library, because it's very, very profound on so many different levels. And so I invite you to watch the trailer. Again, the link for it is down below in the video description here. And I invite you to, connect with me if you've had a similar experience with Cloud Atlas in the many infinite layers, or if you have questions about it or mentoring about it. Both Chris and I, on the Twin Soul journey, are here for you. And we do have our website for the Twin Soul Journey, which is www.natuNenari.net. That's NatuNenari.net. And I will leave the link in the video description as well. And also, you can come to me, through and come to us through that website, as it is our website that I created through inspiration for us on the Twin Soul Journey. So it is our website for any information that you want on the Twin Soul Journey. Our videos are there as well as writings, and you can connect with us there for mentoring on the journey or any questions that you have. You can also join our group on Facebook, which is the Sacred Path Sacred Union group, and that's facebook.com/sacred union, and I'll leave the link for that as well. And you can always connect with me on my website as well. And many blessings to you on this journey. It is so beautiful. The Twin Soul journey is just absolutely amazing, coming to the unconditional love within and having that mirrored within your own soul, both on a soulful resonance and deep spiritual oneness, and also in the physical union. The time is now for us to come together, our soul families, twin souls, all of us in that space of love, and be that change. And so I honor you for taking the journey. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to share with you from the heart, heart to heart, soul to soul. Until we meet again, Espada.